Hi everyone, it's John from What Up. It is Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas to those of you who do celebrate Christmas, and those who do not, Happy Holidays, and I hope you're having a wonderful time with your loved ones and your family, and the holidays are treating you well. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I actually, on one of my videos and on Twitter, made a prediction that Rafe would drop some more news before Christmas. And I started a petition, well, not really a petition, it was more of a hashtag, to try to get Rafe to do it dressed as Santa. So he would be dressed as Santa, and then he'd give us some more news for Christmas as an early Christmas present from Amazon. That didn't happen, but we did get some castings 2 days ago. And since Rafe wouldn't dress as Santa, I did. So let's get into the castings and what we know about them. Alright, so for this video, the first half of the video will be completely spoiler-free. For those of you who just want to know the actresses and actors' names, what characters they'll be playing, and how they fit into the general world, we're going to talk about that with zero spoilers whatsoever to the plot or characters in the books, so you can still read the books or watch the show completely fresh if you haven't gotten that far yet. And then, once I finish that, I'll let you guys know, I'll give you a warning that we're going to get into spoilers territory, and we're going to spoil up to and including, let's say, the end of A Memory of Light. Let's just say full-on spoilers for the whole series, because we're going to talk about some stuff. And it's going to get, a little interesting, and it'll spoil quite a bit for those of you who have not read the series or want to watch the show fresh. So I'll give you a warning and let you know when that happens. All right, so now, let's get into the castings themselves. All right, so 2 days ago, Deadline brought us an article that basically broke the news that one of the Green Ajah, as well as two of her warders, have been cast for the Wheel of Time series. Now, I've linked the article in the description box down below, but this went everywhere. Like, it was all over Twitter. Rafe the Showrunner tweeted it out, so did Sarah Nakamura, a few other members of the cast, and then it hit Twitter of Time, and it just kind of went crazy from there. Everyone was talking about this. And we'll get into kind of why in the second half of the video. The first half of the video, though, we're just going to go through the information that we do have. So that article from Deadline, I'm going to read it now, and then we're going to go through it a little bit. So it says here that Priyanka, Bose, Taylor Napier, and Emmanuel Imani are set to recur opposite Rosamund Pike in The Wheel of Time, Amazon's adaptation of Robert Jordan's fantasy epic. Set in a sprawling, epic world where magic exists and only certain women are allowed to access it, the story follows Moraine, a member of the incredibly powerful, all-female organization called the Aes Sedai, as she arrives in the small town of Two Rivers. There she embarks on a dangerous, world-spanning journey with 5 young men and women, one of whom is prophesied to be the Dragon Reborn, who will either save or destroy humanity. Bose will play ALANNA MOSVANI, a member of the same organization of powerful women as Moraine, the Aes Sedai. She's renowned for both her kindness and her temper, and instead of having one warder like Moraine, she has 2, Ihvon, played by Imani, and Maksim, played by Napier. The 3 of them have a complicated relationship built on love, sex, and respect that welds them into a fearsome force in battle. So we get 3 castings here. Now, Priyanka Bose is ALANNA. How's ALANNA described in the books? Well, ALANNA is described as slim, graceful, beautiful, with long black hair and penetrating dark eyes. She also has very dark skin and was often described as wearing a gray riding dress slashed with green. That's her. So, as far as looks go, she nails it perfectly. She is the perfect ALANNA as far as I'm concerned when you're just looking at looks. Now, if you're looking at her acting repertoire, she is big in the Eastern world, but not so much in the Western world. Now, I have gone through and I've watched a few of the things she's done, just the snippets here and there, and she's a great actress. She does command the stage, and she seems to really know what she's doing. Here's the thing, though, she's not very popular with the Western culture and the Western world, so this could be kind of an easy grab for the Amazon people, because she is not going to cost them a whole lot of money. And that's a terrible thing to say, but it's probably true, because she's not a huge name draw. But she does factor into the books quite well later on. Now, the other 2 actors, we have Emmanuel Imani is Ihvon. Now, Ihvon is described as a tall, slender man with a dark complexion. Again, he nails the description perfectly as far as I'm concerned. So they got that there. Now, he is a fairly new actor. He's only been acting since 2018, so there is that. He probably, again, he doesn't factor a whole lot into the books. We talk about him, we see him here and there, but he is not a major character in any way, shape, or form. So this would be a big break for him, as far as I'm concerned. Now, the third casting is Taylor Napier, I'm so sorry, as Maksim. Now, Maksim is not in the books. He's not talked about at all, and we'll get into that in the spoiler section of the video. So we don't have a description of him, and we don't have any way of knowing if this is a great casting or a poor one, but I do know that this particular gentleman has been acting all the way back since 2012, and I've gone back through and watched some stuff. A lot of it is short films and shorts, and he is a good actor. He does do a very good job at what he does, so he'll probably portray the warder fairly well. Now, he certainly does have the physique of what one would consider to be a warder, so he has that going for him. All right, so now we are going to get into the spoiler section of the video. We've gone through who is cast as each role, and basically kind of what they look like and where they fit in the books. We know that Alanna is an Aes Sedai of the Green Ajah, and she has 2 warders. And that's pretty much all we'll talk about in the non-spoiler section. So I'll give you folks who don't want any spoilers a chance to get out of here, and now we'll dive into all the spoilers. All right, so now we're going to talk about when we first see Alanna in the books, because this is our first major spoiler and major possible change. Now, when we first see Alanna in the books, it's in the Great Hunt, and it is on the journey from Fal Dara to the White Tower. Now, Sue and Sanche, the Amyrlin, Moraine, as well as the 2 young women from Emond's Field, are traveling to the White Tower, where they're going to learn to be Aes Sedai. Along the way, Nynaeve and Egwene get lessons from different Aes Sedai. Now, Alanna was one of those Aes Sedai. So, it is quite possible that we're seeing a little bit of the Great Hunt in the first season. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense, and this is what I find most plausible, the most plausible theory of why she's being cast now, and we're seeing this casting prior to some of the other big names. Because we're going to see her in the first season for sure, we know that, and I think it'll be on the way to the White Tower. That's my, I would put money on that, personally. We don't know for sure when the first season ends. A lot of people are operating the premise 1 season, 1 book. I don't think that's the case. There's going to be a lot of fluidity here. They're going to change some things. We know that for sure. It's an adaptation. It's not a shot-for-shot remake. And they're going to progress some storylines, well, maybe stunting others season by season. So this might be one of the storylines that they do progress a little bit more in the first season. So we do get to see her on the way to the tower. So, that's the first bit. The second theory of why she is cast is that maybe she was involved in the capture of Logi and the False Dragon, and they're going to show that. So we all know that he was captured, he was gentled, he was paraded around Camelin, and Rand did get to see him there, and that was shown in the books. We also know that Rafe has brought up the fact that Logain's story will be expanded upon. For sure. We know that he'll be talked about more. We know he'll be featured more in the books. Sort of have, either a way to show channeling or a way to show some big battles or get some more excitement in the first season. We know that's going to happen for sure. So maybe she's part of that battle in the show. Maybe she helps capture him. Maybe that she's factored heavily into that. And wherever she goes, her 2 warders go as well. Now, here's the other thing. And this is what a lot of people are very upset about. Maksim isn't in the books. He's not a character. He's not her warder that they've cast. Is not a character in the books, and a lot of people are losing their minds over this. Now, I personally didn't get too upset because here's the deal. They changed the name. She has 2 warders in the books. However, one of the warders, Owen, dies in a Shadow Rising. He's going across a field. A bunch of White Cloaks catch him in the open. And they pepper him with the arrows. She feels every arrow. He dies. She deals with all of the effects of losing a warder through the bond, and that's how it's explained in the books. Now, are they going to do that in the show? Maybe. If they're going to stay pretty close, sure. But she has that warder all the way up to the Shadow Rising, which might be season 3, 4, 2. We don't know. So she has to have a warder. But the name has changed. Now, why would they change the name? Now, Wheel of Time Theory, another YouTube channel, which I've linked down in the description box down below, I'm going to give them props to this because I came up with this as soon as I read the news, and it's the first thing I thought of. But they made the video first, so credit goes to them. Good for you guys on basically thinking just like me. Owen is Tom's nephew in the books. He learns to channel. He gets caught up in the unpleasantness with the Red Ajah, and he gets gentled, and that basically makes Tom's journey from Camelin. He leaves Camelin, he goes out into the wide world, and it's his reason for staying with the boys and trying to help them out. His name's Owen. Lana's warder in the books is also named Owen. So maybe they changed the name just because they don't want those two names to be too similar, because there's a very wide difference in all of the names in the books. Some of them are very hard to pronounce, some of them are very exotic sounding to different tongues, and Owen is a very plain sounding name, and that's two characters with the name Owen. So maybe they just changed the name to make it sound a little bit better, to not confuse the audience, because they are going to show her two warders at least a little bit in the first season, and probably the second and third as well if she's factored a little more heavily. So there is that. So I wouldn't get too upset too quick about some of the changes to the book on the show, because they're going to show a lot of things early. It's bound to happen. Don't go along like she's going to be the Dragon Reborn, or she's going to be take Moraine's place later on. I don't think any of that's going to happen. Those are huge, huge changes. But this is, for sure, the second deviation that we know of so far. The last thing I want to talk about before I finish the video is the last bit of controversy that I want to discuss about this casting. There has been some other stuff. I won't touch it on the channel. I really won't. Those of you who are watching that have been following this probably know what it is. But I don't agree with racism. I don't agree with sexism. I don't agree with any of that stuff. So I'm not going to hinge on that controversy. I may do a whole other video on it, actually, because there's been a fair bit of it as the fandom is growing to people who maybe aren't the hardcore fans anymore. But I won't touch on that in this video. But what I do want to cover is the article did mention in the last little bit that the sex and the violence made them an effective fighting force. I can't remember the quote exactly. I don't have it up in front of me right now, but I did mention it earlier in the video, and I did link the article down below so you can read it. And a lot of people were very concerned about that. They're concerned that, oh my God, they're mentioning sex. It shouldn't be in the show. And I've seen a lot of tweets about it. I've seen a lot of Facebook posts about it. I've seen a lot of really, really horrible things said about it. If you want to know my stance on that, I did a video on it about a month and a half ago. My channel was still new. It's the video is made not as high quality as my newer videos are, but I did talk about all of the nudity and the violence and the sex in the books, and there is a lot. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of sex in the books. Now, you don't think about it too much, because they say the nudity happens, and then they just carry on. And it was described once, and that it just kind of happens. And there's all kinds of instances. You can go back to my other video for that if you'd like me to list them all in the book where people are nude. And there's also a ton of sex, like a literal buttload of sex, no pun intended. And with that sex, when you think about it, Robert Jordan doesn't describe it. He doesn't write down this happened, then this happened, then this happened. He wasn't writing a romance novel. He has been on record a couple times saying he wasn't comfortable in writing that stuff down too much and too much detail. He liked leaving it up to the imagination of the readers. So a lot of it was. Igloo scene, anyone? I mean, there you go. And, it's there. So it's not going to be left up to your imagination for the show for a couple of different reasons. One, it was in the books. They're going to put it in the show. Why would they put it in the show? Sex sells. We've seen it in Game of Thrones. We've seen it again in The Witcher. They're going to use sex as a way to sell the show, and there was a lot of sex in the books. So I think we're going to see much more of that on the screen. So for those of you who are hoping for a PG-13, maybe squeaky clean type Wheel of Time that you can show your children, I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a hard R rating. That's just the way it is. Because even if we took out all of the sex, all of the nudity, and it would change the story by a fair bit, the books are so violent. Oh my God, there's so much violence in them. They read almost like a horror book at sometimes, and it's going to show that way in the screen. There's a ton of violence, there's a ton of killing, and there's a ton of very inventive, crazy ways of killing people and things that are going on. So there is that. All right, so before I do go, I want to throw out a couple thank yous. First thank yous to my wife. I don't know if you've noticed, but the audio quality and the video quality of this video is a fair bit better than the last few videos I've done. That is because for Christmas, she got me a bunch of new AV equipment, and that's fantastic. I'm super pumped about that. My favorite Christmas gifts. Top-notch, awesome. So if you like the quality of the videos, my wife's to thank for that, because she bought me this stuff, it only makes your viewing experience a bit better, and it makes my ease of making the videos quite a bit better as well. The other thing I want to thank is all of you folks, the subscribers. For those of you who are watching the videos that haven't subscribed yet, if you'd like to see more of me, hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell. I usually put out a couple of videos a week, usually on the weekends, although sometimes, like today, I put them out in the middle of the week. It just depends on what I have time for. So if you want to see more of me and more of my take on the news that comes out, subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, leave a like. If you have any comments about any of the things in the video at all, please leave it down below. Let me know what you think. I read each and every single one of them. I'm going to say 99.5% of my comments I've gotten have been either positive or good constructive criticism, which I do encourage. I can only get better by you folks telling me what you don't like that I'm doing. So please leave it down below. I do read all of them. Let me know what you think about the castings, and here's to many more.